Very good evening to one and all. This class is for class 10th, a new chapter, that is transpiration. So, what is transpiration? So, whenever we are saying the word transpiration, what comes to our mind? So, transpiration is defined as a process by which the plant loses water in the form of water vapor through its aerial parts. Aerial parts means stem, leaves, as well as the layer of the leaves. So, transpiration is defined as the process by the help of which the plant loses water in the form of water vapor through its aerial parts. And what are these aerial parts? The stem, the leaves, and the surface of the leaves. So, today we shall see here that different types of transpiration and why transpiration is necessary. There are several topics mentioned here on the board. We will see today types of transpiration: stomatal, lenticular, and cuticular. We shall see factors affecting transpiration, external and internal factors. We shall see adaptations to reduce transpiration by some plants, significance of transpiration, and we shall also see today advantages and disadvantages of transpiration. So first of all, what is transpiration? As I have said, it is the loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plant. So not only plants, trees are also going for transpiration. So plants are the young form of the trees, and trees are very much old form of the plants. Fine. Now, starting with the topic types of transpiration. First of all, stomatal transpiration, then we shall go through lenticular transpiration. Now, what is stomatal transpiration? In the stomata of the leaves, there are very minute pores. Stomata are actually very much minute pores present in the leaves. When the transpiration occurs through the stomata, it is called as stomatal transpiration. Means when the water in the form of water vapor escapes out through the stomata. Means when the water in the form of water vapor escapes out through the stomata, it is called as stomatal transpiration. How it happens? During the daytime, the stomata is opening. Why? The stomata is surrounded and continuously guarded by the guard cells. During the daytime, the guard cells become turgid. Turgid condition means a tight condition, a very much tight condition, stiff condition due to the filling up of water. Now, here two things comes. The question arises, why the stomata opens only during the daytime? Why not in the night time? The stomata opens during the daytime for the process of photosynthesis, as well as there are two things. When the process of photosynthesis goes on, there is excessive of sugar production or carbohydrate production takes place in the plant, and which is deeply fixed in the leaves itself. Before going to the different parts of the plant, it is fixed or it is settled in the leaves. So what happens? These carbohydrates or sugar, or starch, they are actually solute. Now, moment the solute concentration goes high, automatically the solvent will be coming up. So here solute is sugar, and what is the solvent? The water which is absorbed by the roots. So what happens? Due to the excessive amount of food production during the daytime, that is solute production, the solvent will come to compensate it, and thereby making the guard cells very much turgid, allowing the stomata to open. This is first postulate. In the second postulate, what happens? During the daytime, due to the generation of more food, more energy is generated in the form of ATP. What is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. So what happens? This ATP embedded itself in the guard cells. Again, what happens in the guard cell? The solute concentration increases. To compensate that solute, again the solvent has to go in the guard cell. So again the guard cell becomes turgid. So there are two things. One, when the food is produced, that is either by the starch, either in the form of starch or in the form of glucose or in the form of carbohydrate or sugar, whatever it is. When the food is being prepared by the plant, that time the food will be fixed or deeply embedded into the guard cells or in the cells of the leaves, which allows more and more water retention, and thereby what will happen? The guard cells will be opened because of excessive turgid conditions. Now, this is the first postulate, and the second postulate, as I have said, the potassium will keep on increasing During the daytime, lot of energy production, and the energy will produce in the form of triphosphate. So what happens? The potassium ions will be present inside the guard cells, and it will withdraw more and more water, and thereby it is opening the stomata. Now, when the stomata is opened, what happens here? Please have a brief and a good attention in it, whatever I am saying. When the stomata is opened, at that time what happens? The water will evaporate. Till that we are knowing, okay, stomata, guard cells become turgid, stomata opened, water evaporate in the form of water vapor. But the technical part is something different to it. What happens? Please try to understand. When the guard cells become turgid, the stomata opened. Nearby the leaves, or in the leaves itself, there are few cells known as mesophyll cells. First, the water will make a thin film. Water will form a thin film, thin layer of water will be formed in the mesophyll cells of the leaves. Firstly, that thin film of water will slowly move to the intercellular spaces of the leaves. It will be slowly moving into the intercellular spaces of the leaves. From mesophyll cells, it will move to the intercellular spaces of the leaves. Finally, before leaving the leaves, that thin film of water will now slowly move towards the stomata. Firstly, again I am repeating, firstly what happens? The thin film of water which has been produced or which has been settled in the leaves is now went to the mesophyll cells. From the mesophyll cells, it will go to the intercellular spaces nearby it, next to it. Now what happens? The moment the thin film of water moves next to the intercellular spaces present near the mesophyll cells, now this thin film of water will again enter into the stomata. It will again enter into the stomata before leaving the leaf. Finally, when the water, that thin film of water will convert itself into water vapor, it will move through the intercellular spaces and it will escape out. Means two times it has to go through the intercellular spaces. First, the intercellular spaces between the mesophyll cells, and secondly after the stomata. So that thin film of water, when it is evaporated through the intercellular spaces after crossing the stomata, that time it will be considered as stomatal transpiration. So I hope it's clear to you. Next, the lenticular transpiration. Lenticels or lenticles, both are the same term. In the old woody plants, what we can see is that the stem having a breakage, very fine pores present in the stem, very fine pores. From those pores, the water will evaporate out. Maximum of transpiration takes place through the stomata. Maximum transpiration. Only 0.1% of transpiration takes place through the lenticular or the lenticles. And 5 to 10% of the transpiration takes place through the cuticle, which means that if it is comprising of 10% of transpiration, cuticle, lenticle only 0.1 to 0.5, means mostly this 89 to 90% of water is transpired. Not 89 exactly, we can say not 90 exactly, we can say 85 to 88% of transpiration is conducted by stomata. Actually what happens is the plant will transpire 98% of the water whatever it is absorbing. That is one of the fact. The plant will use only 2% of water for the process of photosynthesis and metabolism or respiration, whatever the plant is required for. Rest 98% of water is transpired by the plant. Almost all the plants except the plant present in the deserts like cactus and all, which are also known as xerophytes. Now next is, so lenticular transpiration will occur through the breakage of the stems. That breakage of the stems present in the woody trees and allows the lenticular transpiration. Now what is cuticular transpiration? In the leaves there is a layer. If the layer of the cuticle is thin, transpiration will be more. If the layer of the cuticle is thick, transpiration will be less. That we need to understand here. Thin layer, more transpiration. Thick layer of cuticle, less transpiration. So here what happens, if the cuticle layer of the leaf is thin, transpiration will be more. If the cuticle layer is thick, transpiration will be less. Now, cuticle is actually the waxy covering of the leaves. Some kinds of leaves, for example, if at all you are taking the banyan leaves, the old banyan, not the tender ones, the old ones, you can feel the thickness in the thickness on the leaves. Let us say if at all you will pluck a mango leaf, so you can, whenever you will touch it, no, you will feel you will not feel any kind of waxy feeling, rather you will feel very much thin feeling. So mango tree will go for more transpiration, banyan tree will go for less transpiration, because mango tree is having thin cuticle, banyan tree thick cuticle. Okay, now I am not talking about the tender leaves. Each and every tender leaves are having thin cuticle. The thickness of the cuticle only increases as per the leaves will be aging. That time only it will increase. Now, next is factors affecting transpiration. So I hope stomatal, lenticular and cuticular transpiration is clear. Stomata is the pores present in the leaves through which the transpiration occur. Lenticles are the breakage in the bark or the stem of the woody trees where the transpiration occurs. Cuticle is the layer present on the leaves. If thin, more transpiration; if thick, less transpiration. Now, factors affecting transpiration. There are two factors, external and internal. So we will talk about external factors first. External factors, first sunlight. Of course, if the sunlight is more, then transpiration will be more, because more sunlight means more amount of photosynthesis, and more amount of photosynthesis means regular opening of stomata. Regular opening of stomata means more amount of transpiration will take place. Now here, what we need to understand, there is a question always being asked that why photosynthesis, why transpiration is considered as a price paid for photosynthesis, or why transpiration is necessary evil, or why photosynthesis and transpiration works parallelly. Of course, the reason is during the daytime only photosynthesis occurs, and during the daytime only stomatal opening takes place. When the stomata opens, of course the water in the form of water vapor escapes out, what we are calling it as transpiration. But at the other hand, the carbon dioxide from the external environment will go inside the plant through the stomata, and thereby process of food making will be completed. That's the reason why it is said that transpiration is the price paid for photosynthesis, or whatever it is being said, it is a necessary evil, or photosynthesis or transpiration works parallelly, whatever it is. But the main thing is that whenever the transpiration will take place, of course through stomata, that time the stomata will open, of course the water in the form of water vapor will escape out, but at the same time the carbon dioxide will diffuse inside the stomata and transpiration will occur, as well as photosynthesis will also occur. But in the daytime there is no such opening of stomata. Why? Because no transpiration is taking place, no opening of stomata, no incoming of CO2 gas. Now next is humidity. What is humidity? Humidity means the moisture in the atmosphere. When the moisture in the atmosphere increases, of course the atmosphere itself is having moisture, so it cannot accommodate any more moisture, so it will allow the stomata to be closed. So stomata will be staying closed and there will be no transpiration when the humidity increases. But when humidity decreases and the dry weather condition sets in, then definitely there will be opening of stomata and transpiration will be conducting. So increasing of humidity, decreasing transpiration, decreasing humidity, increasing transpiration, just reciprocal to each other, just inversely proportional to each other. Now next, temperature. Again, if the temperature increases, transpiration increases. If the temperature decreases, transpiration decreases. Means when the leaves will have a moderate temperature till 37 degrees Celsius or more than that, let's say maximum 45 or 50 degrees Celsius, transpiration will be at its peak. But if the temperature increases furthermore, then the transpiration will be lowered down. Why? Because the amount of water present in the plants, the water level present in the plant and the soil is slowly going down. That's the reason why much increase in temperature cannot pacify a increased transpiration. It will not satisfy an increased transpiration, rather the transpiration will be decreasing. But a moderate increase till 43 degrees Celsius, till 45 degrees Celsius, transpiration will be at its peak. So we can say increase in temperature will increase the transpiration, but till a certain limit, not more than that, not beyond that. Next, wind. Of course, whenever the wind is blowing, it is carrying away the moisture from the leaves. So if the wind velocity is very high, regularly it will be carrying away the moisture from the leaves. And if this moisture will be continued to be carried regularly, then transpiration will automatically increase. So increase in wind velocity, increase in the transpiration. Next is the atmospheric pressure. So atmospheric pressure, as we are reaching the higher altitude, the atmospheric pressure is decreasing. Atmospheric pressure is decreasing. So it has been seen the big pine trees and all, they are having a huge amount of transpiration. Why? Because they are their leaves are at a considerable height, at a very good height. And at the height, at the upper level, the atmospheric pressure is down. So lesser the atmospheric pressure, more the transpiration. Again inversely proportional to each other. Lesser the atmospheric pressure, more the transpiration. Now, next is the internal factors. Water. If the level of water in the soil or in the plant or in the trees is not proper, then sure and certainly there will be less transpiration or no transpiration. So water is one of the criteria to be fulfilled. Of course, the transpiration is completely based on water. Water has to convert itself to water vapor, then only the transpiration will occur. So if the concentration of water is less, of course the transpiration is less. Leaf surface area. If the surface area of the leaf means the area of the leaf, for example, let us talk about the area of leaf of a banyan tree and area of a leaf of a cactus. Cactus does not have leaves. Their thorns are actually the modified leaves. The thorns present in the cactus are actually the modified leaves. So you can see the thorns are very much hard and they are very much narrow. So no surface area, less transpiration. More surface area in the banyan leaves, more transpiration takes place. So here what happens, area means the amount of space it is covering. Amount of space it is covering, that is area. So similarly, let us compare a banyan tree leaves, what I have said, and a cactus tree leaves. Many people will say no, cactus doesn't have leaves, but their leaves are actually the modified thorns present in the cactus. So what happens, those thorns does not have a good surface area, less transpiration. So according to the climatic conditions the trees are present, you will never find a banyan tree in the desert, but you can find a cactus in the desert. Why? Because desert does not receive rainfall. The cactus tree needs to sustain enough amount of water for the metabolism of the tree or for the photosynthesis process of the tree. That's the reason why what happens here, that cactus modified leaves, the leaves of the cactus modified into thorns, but the banyan trees and all, they are generally found in the plains and in the moderate weather conditions where almost all the weather the plant has to receive. So rainy season is also there, winters are also there, summer is also there. So in those areas the banyan trees are found. So if the leaves are broadened also, if the leaves are having a good surface area also, so whatever the water is transpired by the leaves, that transpiration will be compensated by the roots present under the soil of the banyan tree. But in cactus the things are different. Hardly the deserts are receiving rainfall. So the cactus has to go for a longer life with a limited amount of water. That's the reason why their leaves are converted into thorns and less transpiration takes place. Now, next, cuticle. Of course, I told earlier itself, cuticle is the waxy layer present on the leaves. Thin cuticle, more transpiration. Thick cuticle, less transpiration. Then stomata. Of course, if the stomata, like in cactus, the stomata are remain sunken in the pits, because cactus plant is having very small minute holes. There only the stomatas are located. So what happens here, if the stomatas are located in that small pits, then automatically their opening and closing will also be very much little only. So especially they will be closed only, specifically they will be closed only. They will open in a very little manner. And if they are opening in a very little manner, then but for sure that transpiration will be very much less. So some stomata which are remain in the pits, they are known as sunken stomata. Sunken stomata means they are not completely opened. They are not at all exposed to the environment. They are not at all exposed to the environment. They are limited to their pits only and hardly they are opening, so less transpiration. Next, root and shoot ratio. root and shoot ratio means if the amount of root means if the size of the root is very much with the size of the shoot, means if the length of the root is quite similar to the length of the shoot, or they both are having an equal proportion, I mean to say that neither a very big root or a very small shoot, or neither a very big shoot or a very small root, not like that. If they are having a proper ratio in terms of their length, then also the transpiration will be proper. So these are the external and the internal factors. Now, adaptations to reduce transpiration. As I said earlier, that there are few plants and trees where there is no rainfall, where there is very less or no rainfall. Some places are there in the whole world, if at all you will find, like the desert areas as well as the heavily winter areas, those Arctic zones and all, where the rainfall is very less, so water content is less. That time, what are the adaptations the plants are taking? If at all you will go to some humid and hot areas where the transpiration is very much need to be reduced, if the transpiration is more in those areas, the plant will dry or the tree will die. So you can find, for example, the best example is the dates tree. You can find the dates trees are more in the desert regions. For example, the places like Dubai and all, you can find the dates are very much tasty over there. Why? Because those leaves are the dates trees leaves are very much thin and narrow. So the rays of, since they are very much narrow, they are not providing an enough surface area, and their whole part of the leaf is not at all exposed towards the sun. And since it is not at all exposed towards the sun, the guard cells are not allowing the stomata to open, and thereby the leaf is maintaining its water quantity, and thereby the whole plant is maintaining its water quantity, as well as the plant is having and leading a very healthy life. That's the reason why in many areas the peoples are cutting the cactus plant to get water from it, because they are knowing it's a desert region and the cactus are having very less transpiration and they are holding much more amount of water. So in some places like dates tree, pine tree, they are all having a very narrow leaves, as well as their leaves are rolled up. But in the hilly areas, whatever the pine trees are available, they are having broad leaves. Why? Because they are getting good rainfall. So based upon the climatic conditions, the leaves as well as the trees are adjusting themselves. The leaves as well as the trees are adjusting themselves and accommodating themselves according to the weather conditions. Now, next is significance of transpiration. What is significance, importance of transpiration? Due to transpiration, the water level of the plant is maintained. Due to transpiration, the suction force. What is the suction force? The ability of the roots to suck the water from the soil and send it through the xylem to the upper parts of the plant. Of course, we are knowing that xylem is a tissue, complex tissue present in the plant, which is well known for delivering the water and the minerals to the upper parts of the plant. So what it is doing is that xylem, in the significance of transpiration, what happens? The xylem itself, when the root is absorbing enough amount of water, the xylem is transporting that amount of water to the upper part of the plant. Now what happens? The significance of transpiration, not only that, significance of transpiration is that whenever the leaf of the particular plant will transpire properly, it will make the environment cool. It will bring rain. How? Because more and more water vapor will be escaping out in the atmosphere. It will condense at the upper layer of the atmosphere and it will fall as rain. So these are the importance. And moreover, the significance of transpiration also says it will lower down the turgor pressure. What is turgor pressure? The amount of water present in the leaves or in the cells of the plant or in the cells of the leaves. The amount of water which is present in the cells of the plant or the leaves, when that water is providing pressure, is putting a pressure on the inner wall of the cell, that is known as turgor pressure. Significance of transpiration is that if the under significance of transpiration, what happens? If the turgor pressure is going beyond, then it will burst out the cell. But due to transpiration, what happens? It is continuously escaping a more and more amount of water. So what happens? There is no or less turgor pressure, because of water only the turgor pressure is there. Because what is turgor pressure? The amount of pressure applied by the water present in the cells or in the cells of the leaves to the walls of the particular cell. That is turgor pressure. Now, if there is no water, from where the turgor pressure will come? Due to transpiration, what happens? This turgor pressure is reduced, and the cells of the leaves and the plants becomes intact, healthy, and fit. That is what the significance. Now, next is advantages and disadvantages of transpiration. Advantages, first we will see through the advantages. Water content of the leaves and the plants are maintained. Secondly, the environment gets cool. There is more and more amount of rainfall. Thirdly, if there is continuous supply of water, then the suction force, means the force by which the root is absorbing the water from the soil and transporting it to the upper part of the plant, that will be good. That is the advantage. Now, what a disadvantage? More transpiration, more problem. If the particular leaf or particular plant, particular leaf of a plant is going for more and more transpiration, that will be very much unhealthy for the plant. The plant will wilt. What is wilting? So I am using in Hindi over here. Wilting means murjha jana. Wilting actually means murjha jana. Means when there will be more and more transpiration of water through the upper parts of the plant, that is from the leaves, then automatically the condition of the leaves and the condition of the plant will be unhealthy. It will start to wilt. वो मुरझाने लगेगा. Now, apart from this wilting process, what is the other disadvantages? The plant will lack metabolism. There will be no energy production in the plant. There will be no photosynthesis in the plant. No food production for the plant. Neither food production. If there is no food production, of course there is no energy production. So wilting and lack of energy, means lack of metabolism in the plant, may take place if the transpiration is more than enough. If the transpiration is more than enough that time. So I hope you can understand through this video. If at all you are having any doubts, you can ask. Thanks a lot.